It's 3 a.m. You're lying awake, staring at the ceiling, while your mind races through a checklist of potential disasters. The car breaking down, a medical emergency, a sudden layoff. This midnight panic is a physical manifestation of biological anxiety, driven by the absence of a financial safety net. Living paycheck to paycheck triggers a specific internal response. When your savings are depleted, your brain is flooded with cortisol. That chemical surge maintains a defensive posture, knowing a single check engine light or minor medical bill could destabilize your entire life. This prolonged state of high alert has documented physical consequences. Chronic financial stress correlates heavily with severe insomnia and heightened irritability, which often strains relationships with family and friends. Ending this physical cycle requires moving past abstract anxiety and reaching a specific mathematical threshold that disrupts the brain's stress. To understand why a lack of savings is so exhausting, we have to look at the psychological concept of decision fatigue. Every trip to the grocery store becomes a high-stakes series of micro-calculations. You're forced to choose the generic pasta over the name brand, calculate the exact cost of adding meat to a meal, and track your running balance to ensure your card won't be declined at the register. Each of these tiny choices consumes a portion of your limited mental energy. By the end of the day, the brain is left depleted from the sheer volume of calculations required for basic survival. The hidden cost of zero savings is the massive amount of cognitive bandwidth wasted on these daily financial trade-offs. This cognitive drain subsides when you hit the $10,000 mark. This number serves as a practical bridge between the biology of stress and the reality of modern emergencies. $10,000 covers the vast majority of financial derailments. As this chart shows, it is enough to handle significant car repairs, emergency room visits, or provide a 3 to 6 month buffer during a sudden job loss. When you reach this level of liquidity, the way you process a check engine light shifts. It is no longer a potential catastrophe, it is downgraded to a simple inconvenience. This illustrates the emergency fund effect. Paradoxically, most people who accumulate this money rarely end up spending it on actual emergencies. The power of this milestone lies in the psychological peace derived from knowing the safety net is there, even if it is never used. Once those daily survival calculations vanish, cortisol levels drop. You regain the mental energy that was previously spent on financial defense. This freed up bandwidth changes your relationship with risk. You can move beyond protecting what you have and start looking for ways to grow. Consider a $50 networking event. Someone with zero savings might view that fee as a threat to their grocery budget and stay home, but someone with $10,000 can attend without stress, potentially turning that $50 entry fee into a major career leap. A $10,000 safety net allows you to play financial offense. Individual dollars feel less precious, which makes it easier to invest them into long-term opportunities. While $10,000 is a significant milestone, it does not provide total financial freedom. You still have to work, and you still have to be mindful of your spending. What it provides is breathing room, the necessary time and space to make optimized, strategic decisions rather than reactive ones. A person earning a modest salary with $10,000 saved is often closer to financial independence than a high earner with zero savings. Wealth building is less about the ability to earn money and more about the discipline required to keep it. Reaching this 5-figure goal is a matter of consistent small habits rather than drastic temporary sacrifices that lead to burnout. By redirecting even a small portion of convenience spending toward an automated savings account, you can build this foundation over time. During this process, your self-perception changes. You move away from the mindset of a consumer and adopt the identity of a saver. The ultimate value of your first $10,000 is the resilient person you become through the process of trying to achieve it.
Reaching $10,000 quiets the anxiety, but it doesn't finish the job. There's a second number waiting on the other side of that first milestone, one that doesn't just calm your mind, it starts working for you. We all know the dread of checking a bank balance and immediately doing the math to see if buying a coffee means eating ramen for the rest of the week.
We all know the dread of checking a bank balance and immediately doing the math to see if buying a coffee means eating ramen for the rest of the week. Most financial advice suggests you need $1 million or a high 6-figure salary to finally escape that anxiety. But the data suggests that a sense of security doesn't require a 7-figure windfall. There is a much smaller, often overlooked milestone that changes how your brain processes financial decisions. That number is $20,000. It acts as a pivot point where the struggle to stay afloat begins to give way to the momentum of building wealth. Reaching this level isn't about reaching the finish line. It's about crossing a psychological barrier where the rules of the game shift in your favor. To understand why this shift happens, we have to look at survival mode. This is the mental state that takes over when your savings account is sitting at zero. Without a safety net, your brain filters every choice through short-term fear. You might tolerate a toxic boss or accept a low-paying job because you simply cannot afford to be picky. This graphic shows the difference in perspective. For someone with a buffer, a flat tire is a minor annoyance on their timeline. But in survival mode, that same tire is an overwhelming roadblock that can derail an entire month of planning. Planning for the future is nearly impossible when your mental bandwidth is entirely consumed by these immediate, short-term threats. Research from Vanguard found that securing $2,000 in emergency savings correlates with a 21% jump in financial well-being. When that buffer reaches roughly $20,000, well-being scores end up 34% higher than the baseline. This cash floor acts like a pressure valve for the brain. It clears away the constant background noise of financial survival, allowing for more critical, long-term thinking. With the immediate threats neutralized, your focus naturally shifts. You stop thinking about how to protect what you have and start looking for ways to grow it. The math of this transition is even more compelling. Saving $1,000 monthly at an 8% return takes 19 months to hit $20,000. Reaching the next $20,000 takes only 17 months. This is the power of scale. A 10% return on $2,000 is $200, but on $20,000, it's $2,000 in actual profit. At this level, your money begins to function as a second worker. It generates income automatically, without any extra physical effort from you. Once you hit this tipping point, every subsequent milestone becomes easier. The momentum of the math begins to do more of the heavy lifting. The year and a half of discipline required to save that first $20,000 builds the mental framework you'll use for the rest of your life. By tracking every dollar of your spending and choosing to save, you prove you can control your impulses. This consistent, deliberate choice reinforces an identity of someone who manages money rather than someone who is managed by it. This new identity stops obsessing over small, exhausting micro-decisions. You realize that agonizing over the price of coffee doesn't change your financial trajectory. By letting go of that micro-stress, you can focus on the macro decisions, like housing costs or investment allocations, that determine your net worth over decades. Having $20,000 provides you with walking away money. This changes the power dynamic in your career. Instead of staying in a bad situation because you need the next check to pay rent, you have the quiet confidence of knowing you could quit and survive for months while looking for a better opportunity. This safety net allows you to be more assertive. You can ask for raises or push back on unreasonable demands because you're negotiating from a position of strength rather than desperation. This stage is about more than buying things. It's about buying back your agency. That independence creates a feedback loop that leads to even more career opportunities. However, there is a common trap right at this milestone. After months of discipline, it is tempting to reward yourself by using that $20,000 as a down payment on a $30,000 car. This is the hidden cost of a depreciating asset. By spending that capital, you aren't just losing the money, you are losing the future earnings that money would have generated. This chart shows the trade-off. That $30,000 spent on a car will be worth almost nothing in 20 years. But if that same money stayed invested, it could have grown to over $200,000. Reaching $20,000 is the first time you stop being a passenger in your financial life. It is the moment you move from reacting to emergencies to intentionally designing your own freedom.